Hello, students. I'm thrilled today to have our guest speaker, Lisa Hu. I met her in one of our webinars. Lisa, would you like to introduce yourself to us?
Oh, hi, my name is Lisa. I'm currently a founder and CEO of The Real Feel, and it's nice to be here. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Lisa, tell me a little bit about your background from high school to all the way to where you are at.
Yeah, it's I'm pretty old actually. I grew up born and raised outside DC in Maryland. Went to school Maryland and then went to college in Michigan, so I'm a fellow Wolverine. And majored in business there. After that, I went the traditional corporate route, doing consulting at Accenture. And within Accenture, I worked in New York for certain clients, but I also went abroad. I was in a program, Accenture Development Partnerships, where we got to work with nonprofit organizations. So that brought me to projects in Ethiopia as well as India. And that was pretty fascinating because the remit for those projects was to get 10 million farmers out of poverty. So we had to figure out ways of doing that. So that was actually one of my favorite consulting projects. Did that for a while. I knew I wanted to kind of like advance my business career. I did decide to get my MBA, and I knew I wanted. I'm a pretty global oriented person. I love meeting people around the world. I knew I wanted to study outside the U.S., so I actually ended up at London Business School for my MBA.
Business
Um,
school.
yeah, and then I lived there. And actually went there, but then also study abroad in Hong Kong. So uh, that was a really fun, great experience. And within London, I interned at Amazon as well as ESPN. After that, I came back to the US and worked at Thomson Reuters for a bit, and within Reuters Media. So I went from consulting into just more industry, company, media based, and did that. I was just working in the Reuters Media, trying to find ways to just grow the business with the news and content that we produced. And then so I did that and around 2012, I'm dating myself. So I did all that, and then it's 2012 now. I was in New York. I'd been in the corporate world for a while. Startup world was looming actually in New York City. They're calling it Silicon Alley. And I had an opportunity to join a startup. And this was the first startup, and I jumped ships into the startup world. So the first, I've done three ventures. So the first one was 2012. I joined Blipper, which was actually a UK startup. It's still around, augmented reality and computer vision AI company. So we actually did AI before all the hype. But we were basically training a phone camera to see things and identify objects like, oh, this is a flower, this is a coffee cup, oh, this is a Pepsi can. And upon recognition, it triggered an AR experience. So um, I was the US founder there. And kickstarted the US operations. And we pretty much worked with all these brands, ad agencies, media owners, retailers to bring their physical products to life. And and it was fun. I mean, we worked with so many marketing folks to make that happen, and did that for 6 years. Then 2018, I decided to leave. I still wanted to be in the startup world, but go into a industry where I felt technology and innovation was needed. So I totally did a 180. It was very different. I connected with my friend who ended up being a co-founder, but basically he was in the animal healthcare space, and I was hearing about this industry, and it was just really shocking to me how old school and antiquated a lot of the processes were on the B2B side. So there's a lot happening on the pet care consumer side. You saw like Wags, Rovers, Chewies, like organic dog foods popping up in 2018, but the whole behind the scenes with the veterinarians, the vet techs, and hospitals, I just couldn't believe some of the ways they just work. So for instance, they're still using pen and paper for scheduling. They're still to this day they still use the fax machine to communicate. But the biggest challenge in that industry was literally staffing, and it was based fundamentally an animal hospital needing another vet to come in to help with extra surgery or just needing more vets to hire, right? And um, so the, there was definitely a lot of challenges as far as finding talent and vets trying to find good places to work. And the whole notion of a labor marketplace was already looming in 2018 in other industries with like human doctors. There's a nurse staffing platforms. Uber even tried Uber Works to match like hospitality workers with restaurants. But that actually I think shut down during COVID. But no one was doing it for animal healthcare. So the second venture I did, together with my co-founder, we formed Rue and we launched in the first city 2019. And again, this was a marketplace to link the demand, staffing need, and talent needs of animal hospitals with the supply side of vets, vet techs. So that started up. That's been growing really well. You fast forward to today, I mean, the majority of the industry knows who we are, and tons of, thousands of our vets and hospitals are using us. But we are already operating in over like 25 cities. Revenue wise, we're already annualizing close to 200 million in gross revenues annualized and 20% net, and we're profitable. So
Amazing.
that's been a success story. I started that in
Yes.
San Francisco. And I was happy with what we'd accomplish after 5 years as the co-founder CEO. We brought on VCs and who are awesome. But it was kind of like, okay, let's take this to the next level. Let's get this to a billion in valuation, and let's do this, and that. And because I was already happy with what we accomplished, I personally decided to step down as the CEO. I remain co-founder and liaise with the board, but we brought in a new CEO to take things to the next level. So we brought in someone else, and we continue to thrive with Rue, and it's been pretty awesome in that journey. I'm not active day to day, but just seeing where we're at, has been pretty awesome. So
Excellent.
after Rue, then now to my third venture, kind of going back to my roots with media and content and information. I formed the Real Feel, and basically, it's in a nutshell a human sentiment platform where we're literally collecting America's mood. We're getting a pulse on how Americans are feeling every day, overall in aggregate, as well as by different demographics. Like, oh, how about females in this age group in New York City, right? And how I came about with this idea, it just over my career, I think it's just I mean, it started with Reuters where we're always pushing content to folks, to audiences, just lots of content. And I was always thinking, well, what's the current mood state of the audience? Are they happy, sad, bearish, bullish? Because that will help determine how much content and what type we send to them, right? And no one ever had that data point, that data set. So it was kind of like to me a gap in qualitative data. And then the same thing when we worked with brands is the same. They would push ads, emails, messages to their targeted consumers, right? And again, I'd be like, well, hey, you're targeting them on a Sunday. What's their current mood state? Are they tired? And it's the same things like, oh, we have no idea. We'd love to have that data point, right? So you fast forward, I mean, I did Rue, and then now after Rue, I came back to visit this challenge. I said, okay, now last year, when I was forming the Real Feel, I said like, okay, so now what kind of true sentiment data exists now in terms of getting this real-time emotion-based information on humans, particularly Americans? And to my surprise, it still didn't exist. I mean, there are some tools out there that try to collect sentiment, but I mean, the methodology is pretty old school, like as in they might poll 1,000 people once a month and through phone
Yeah, we
calls.
talked about that with the Gallup. I'm
Oh
disappointed with
yeah,
the
and
methodology.
it's pretty static. It's not real time. It's also not necessarily about them, and it's more about what do you think about this product, or what do you think about this politician, right? And this and that. And so I just thought like we've never fundamentally capitalized on this question, how are you? Right? How are you feeling? And for me, that's what it is. It's literally just seeing like how are you feeling, right? From 1 to 10. What's your mood and how come you feel this way? And it's all anonymized individual responses, but then we take all that and we use AI to summarize it right nicely, on it. And so that's how I formed the Real Feel. And I really just wanted to get a pulse on the current mood state. And given that, we package that data and we can provide it to folks, whether they're marketers or financial institutions or tech companies. But like the fact that this is a new qualitative data set for these people to better understand their targeted audience or consumers, I just thought it's fulfilling that need. So that's how I formed the Real Feel and where we are today.
I love it.
So that's
Thank you.
my journey in a
Long
nutshell.
journey. It's amazing. Um, my question. I have all questions, but I'm gonna revisit your thought about the mood. Today is November 5th. We're recording this on November 5th, which is the day after the election, New York City and governmental race. How is the mood post-election? Do you have data about the mood?
Do you want me to share my screen?
Yes, I made
I,
you a co-host. I was thinking about it.
oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know if I should share.
I would
Here, let
love to see
me.
your. That would be great
Yeah,
for
let
our
me just
students.
share it real quick. And anyone could go to this site. It's therealfeel.ai. And how I came up with the name, for weather check, meteorologists will say, oh, the temperature is 80 degrees, but the real feel is 95. It's more like what's the real feeling, right? So yep, this is a website, and right now, currently in the logged in version, we are 7.1, and in aggregate, you have this, and you have this. Now, there are obviously pocket. If I zoom in on certain geographies, maybe where the
Yeah,
elections
we
are
would
held.
love to. Yeah, if
Oh
you
no,
have
no,
time.
yeah.
Oh, you cannot.
Oh yeah, I might not have it like. I'm saying like yeah, maybe we might have this.
Love it. Love
I'd
it.
have to dig in further for it just because it literally just happened last night. But um, but we um, but this is the quant average and then the overall summary. But then yeah, you could break it down by gender, age group. Like if I took last week's, um, how about among men 18 to 29, what's their current sentiment? Oh, they're last week they were 6.8, and this is why. Speaking of election, like I might not. What we did do last year is the 2024 elections. You can still see my screen, right? So
Yes, we
we
can.
did we
Proceed.
did we did zoom in on a sentiment by political party during last year's election, and you do see so there was pretty much the well, Republicans consistently have higher mid scores than Democrats, but it kind of like it tied the day before the election. But once the winner was announced, you saw this you know this gap, right, as far as his response goes.
Wonderful.
Um, but that it just I just thought of that. But so we do have all this data, and then we package it. It's good to have a weekly readout of the sentiment. So we produce that for businesses. But the real thing too is, okay, given this, what are some of the trends that we see week over week, quarter over quarter? So we do produce insights reports as well as far as like certain trends that we see. So for instance, we consistently see men have higher mid scores than women, and you could see why. I mean, women emphasize they, for instance, have to do more household chores, have to take care of the kids, etc. Among age groups, we consistently see, for instance, 61 plus year olds always have higher mood scores, and the lowest mood scores are always 18 to 29-year olds. Again, when you see why, the themes brought up by the younger group do hover around financial stress, mental health issues, etc. So, we're collecting these trends, which have been very interesting, but then the real interesting, meaty part is twofold. One, what's really important is, okay, given these mood trends, how might that correlate with action, right? Like in terms of
Yes.
product consumption or at a macro level, market movement. And we're already seeing themes, seeing interesting correlations. Like, for instance, when America's mood is really low, um, you do see as particularly among certain demographic groups, you do see an increase in stock price return index in healthcare industries like pharmaceutical health. And then when you read the responses on Americans with really low moods, they do highlight physical ailment, visiting the hospital, needing medication, right? So that was interesting, that we've seen. Or for instance, there's a correlation between females' mood scores that go up in the fashion beauty sector. So this is like gold data that businesses would find interest, whether they're marketers, but also like financial institutions have been interested.
Love it. Yeah,
Correlations, and then the second part is just a predictive sentiment. We can predict how people might feel, and there's a lot of implications there. So yeah, we've been building this product wise. We have data reports as well as an API where it's a direct data feed where people can sign up and actually use an API playground and query sentiment info as well as get the map playground. So yeah,
excellent.
we've built this and to hopefully share all this information to everyone.
Amazing. Tell me about how do you trust the data? Like, for example, how do you, when somebody says my mood is 7 or 8 or good mood, how would you drive this information? Just asking simple question or how?
Well,
What's the
that we
motivation
it's
for the responder to give you the true answer?
how do we collect that information, or
No,
how
no,
do
no.
we?
We, I do a lot of experiments and I do a lot of service like this. What we wanna, how could you make sure that the responder give you the true feeling about their mood?
Oh, the true feeling.
Yeah, they
So
report the truth.
what? So okay, one, it's a super simple threefold question, so that because it's fast, that helps. But I think more importantly, it's about them, right? So they appreciate that. It's not about getting their opinion on XYZ. But then the third point is we do make it pretty mission driven. Like we do say, look, here at the Real Feel, we genuinely want to know how everyone's doing because we're taking this information and passing it to the change makers, whether they're a business, the business or government agency, so that they can serve you better. So because of that, that actually is an intangible incentive for them to want to be honest with how they're feeling. And that's why we do get honest, I mean, sometimes brutally honest answers on their feelings. And that's why among all of the responses, I mean, some of the true sentiment themes that pop up among Americans are financial stress and physical ailments and mental health issues that constantly comes up along with other themes like faith, family relationships, etc. But so I think when we give this true message about we just want to understand how you are so people can serve you better, that helps them be pretty honest. Now, tactically with the whole 1 to 10, just going into the for the most part, people answer it like we say, look, one's the worst, ten's best. We do see sometimes some misinterpretation of the 1 to 10. So some people think like, okay, so we say, how do you feel from 1 to 10? What's your current mood? And we have a spectrum that's like, happy. It goes from worst to best. So like sick, sad, bored, okay, all the way to, like happy and ecstatic or whatever. So, but some people answer it. So like if they'll say they're tired, but they put a 10. But I think because they're thinking, oh, the extent that I'm tired is a 10, when really it should be separate. Like actually there may be more of a 4. So technology wise in the back end, we're trying to extract that misinterpretation to make sure that it's reflected properly. That's more of a product and thing. But yeah, as far as them answering honestly, it's really more about
Yeah, this is
our
a
messaging.
critical because the quality of the data is important.
Mhm.
I'm going to, I appreciate, I think you have we call it an academic treatment. I think you have a good treatment with the data. All right. So I'm going to go to the next question. What core problems does the real field product solve? Maybe you answer this a little bit.
It probably stems to how I kind of came about with the idea when I was, at my company years ago. But again, it was more of we're constantly targeting consumers with something, whether it's news or an ad or a message or search results. And it's like we're pushing it, but do we know how this person's feeling, right? So it's like even when you interact face to face, human wise, if you see someone sad, you're not going to just go up to them and be like, just a 180 to how they're doing, you empathize with them, right? And I think it's the same thing here in other communication channels. It's like you want to so that's where I think we're solving that potential mismatch of communication, right? So it's just understanding that general mood state. Now we might not have it precisely down, because every person's different, but the fact that we're collecting thousands of data points every week, we have some directional idea of like, okay, there's a good chance this particular type of consumer is going to be feeling like this at this time of day, right? And that's very important to be able to better target the right type of you know um, communication to them. So I think I'm solving that problem, and that's more of like the current term. And then again, thinking about the future, predictive sentiment, how if we could predict how people are feeling and the implications behind that, that's pretty big in terms of trying to guesstimate our economic impacts, right? From there, you know.
Excellent. Thank you. What was your biggest fear when launching your company?
I think so. One was, I mentioned I've done three ventures. The first two, I did it with a co-founder. So I had a partner in crime. This one I was doing solo. So, in some ways, I I think part of it was like, okay, I'm doing this by myself. This is gonna be interesting. And it was more so around I know my weaknesses in certain areas. Like I'm not the whole thing about having to set up an entity, going through legal. I'm terrible at that stuff, and also I love math and numbers, but as far as like financials and like a cap table, I'm not good at that stuff, and so that part, just facing that on my own, but it's okay because you're not going to be excellent at everything, and how I just compensate is like I it was just in lieu of a co-founder, because the previous co-founders did all that they were strong in those areas, but like there's still other people who were able to help me, take care of it. As in, like, yeah, let me just hire the lawyers to do this. So it's just going through and making sure I get the right support, folks, the right support for me. So that was probably one fear. The other one, more on a personal note, is like as I kickstarted the real feels pregnant. And so I was kind of like, oh, well, okay, let's see how this goes, right? But um I did it with the first one. I mean, when I had my first kid, the Rue was growing, and as soon as I was um a month after giving birth, we kickstarted Series A. So it was challenging but doable. So I felt like the second time around, I thought, okay, I can handle this. But I did fear like, oh, is this gonna like really hurt the business? Like, because I don't have a whole team to take my place. Like, but it's just like it was okay, and it's just like me just going day by day. But and then sometimes it's like, okay, I know I don't have as much energy now to do this, but then in other ways, it's like, okay, I've been there, done that with this. I'm way more efficient with how I work. So it's just, there's some pros, just with that. So I would say those were probably the couple of fears that I had that, I've overcome.
Great. Thank you. The next question, what was the key moment, initial product validation, the validation of the
Um,
product?
I think when we partnered with Microsoft as a first client prospect, we joined their AI labs, the AI co-innovation labs. And the fact that they saw this use case really interesting, and I had Microsoft engineers help us with the AI orchestration and us going through the prompts and seeing what kind of sentiment output was coming out. That's where I was like, this is legit. And like and this is just one use case, and there's so many other applications. I think is where was definitely a strong signal that I was like, okay, this is pretty good market validation. And then secondary was more around just me sharing this idea and showing the prototype, and people across industries being like, oh, this is awesome, right? And them it being really well received. I targeted the marketing world, and to my pleasant surprise, financial institutions have been interested and research. I mean, we met through Wolf Research, right? They were really interested in it. So that's it's just
Yes, Wolf
been
Research. I was about to
blooming
ask.
client interest that's been helping me with this like continuous like, okay, yeah, there's definitely there's some validity behind this. Yeah.
Yes, I just want to tell my student that Wolf Research is an elite research group, and you were featured with them, and I'm honored to
That we
be
met.
joining you on that day. I have a lot of questions, so we'll try to have a short. I'm gonna prioritize here. I'm gonna do to product and strategy question. The first set of question was about the origin story and the journey that you have. Now I'm gonna go one question about product strategy and vision and advice, and we're done. Um, uh, really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
What part of your AI technology stack is the most crucial authenticity?
Is the mo most crucial authenticity?
Yeah, like what your AI technology that you use? You said you use with Copilot
Oh,
Microsoft. Yeah,
so we with all the inputs we have, we use AI to help us deliver the outputs, right? And that's and how we do the AI prompt and the guardrails, because you need to train it to make sure it's giving a good, there's different levels of it, but like at first level is just give us a good summary, right? And then the second part too is okay, extract insights the past week and then the week over week. Okay, tell us like so what the fact that we've been training it through the help of, well, initially the Microsoft engineers and then my engineers and then our data analysts and constantly training it. Now, and we started with ChatGPT and we've been training with that. The thing is, there's a lot of players out there, and now we've seen that actually Gemini has been quite pretty actually better at summarizing and also being able better bandwidth in terms of feeding a lot of data inputs for output without us getting an
Gemini's
error.
Enterprise, the new one. Gemini's Enterprise. That's the one you. Which one?
No, we're using like Gemini, I forgot which number, flashlight.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
then but just the constant training, I think, has been the crucial AI components to it. And it's an ongoing thing, right? So
I
it's not
agree.
a one-off, but just constantly through our different resources doing the AI has been important. So that's been just with the product itself. Now, as a company, I have to say AI has probably been equivalent to like 3 employees of mine because it's just it's equivalent to like an analyst who can execute. But the thing is, you can't just leave them in standalone. You actually still need someone to manage them, right? And so, but AI has helped. I mean, that whole front end web page, the front end code was done by AI. So I see it as like a front end developer. Secondly, the AI helps us extract more insights, sentiment insights and themes. So that helps the data analysts. And the third part is the AI has just helped us write a lot, the copy. And but that's overseen by our marketer. So it's been that's another part in terms of like AI usage at a company level. That's been important. I mean, it's helped me save on costs. The I think now these days with early startups, people used to think, oh, I need to raise all this money to hire, a ton of people, but you can actually be more efficient now. But again, it's not like they could just replace it. It's not like you could just use AI and that's it. You still need to make sure that humans are guiding them correctly and still overseeing that it's done correctly.
Love it. Just love it. Did you have any major product pivots, and what drove them? Did you pivot a little bit here and there,
I
or just
haven't, it's only been a year. I haven't pivoted, but I do have I've been pretty focused on wanting to capitalize on this current data that we're collecting on America sentiment. This hasn't been a pivot. This has been more of a like an extension of what we could do, but we've actually had like HR heads of people of companies ask if they could have like more of a white label version of the real feel for their company, right? So that they can get employee sentiment and get like a heat dynamic heat map of anonymized employees, right? And being able to filter by location, like, oh, New York's this versus San Francisco, or oh, among partners, they're seven out of 10 analysts, they're this, and here's why. So that's been interesting. I haven't, I mean, it's really more of resource, time, and effort. But that's been asked. And also, by the way, talking about universities and school, it's the same thing. It's like taking a white label version for a university and getting a pulse on students, a real quick real-time pulse, and like, hey, freshmen versus seniors, like, and oh, why? Why are freshmen feeling down today? Oh, here's why. And I feel like if we let that if we enabled that, and then for students, literally making it easy for them to answer, whether, we don't want to send them a long survey. It's just a one, two, three question, like whether it's through Slack or text message, and they just answer. I think it could be pretty powerful how we can help schools.
Yeah, I like where you're going with this. It just came to my mind. We can do a mood for the entire nation, but we can do the sub mood for the
Oh,
students.
totally. It's
Yeah,
localized.
that
Yeah.
would be nice to
Yeah.
be, so we can learn as an educators how to work with our students. I have more about product strategy question, but I'm gonna skip to the last and final one. Vision and advice. What cultural value is most essential while scaling your team?
What cultural
Yeah,
advice?
value is most essential while
I think,
scaling your team.
well, like for my last company and this company, I hold certain values that I think is critical to have a fundamentally a successful company, right, with the people. There are a few, but I would say two of them are one, authenticity, I think is truly important. Just be real. That's always been like my a value of mine. So because I think when we're genuine and the people who we serve can see it, they appreciate that. So in this case with the Real Feel, whether it's like member users who fill out the surveys, or whether it's businesses who see what we're trying to do. And I was the same thing with Rue. Like people can replicate our tech, but the fact that we have this authentic voice where we say, look, we genuinely care about vets. We want to make sure they um thrive. Vets see that and they appreciate what we're doing, in that marketplace. So authenticity, and then the other one I'd say is agility or flexibility is hugely important, particularly in the startup world. It's kind of like organized chaos. There's no structure, and you gotta like just know how to like be agile on what you need to work on, what you need to prioritize. And yeah, if you need to pivot, you need to have that mindset. And if you don't have that mindset, that's okay. It's just the startup world's probably not, early startup world is probably not for you. Um, but it changes over time because once the startup gets to year four, five, six, um, it changes. And then, yeah, there is a lot more structure. There's a lot more obedience. But at least in the early stages, I think agility is also important. Value. But the
Amazing.
culture of my companies have always hovered around things like that. And then there's other ones like being efficient, speed, etc.
So how do you define company success beyond financial metrics?
Um, Usage. So, just the client reception and then qualitatively, because sometimes like when you try to close a deal it's still going to take a year, but when they're still giving you ongoing feedback, oh my gosh, your API is so easy. Qualitative feedback is helpful, and then them just using our product, and again, that might not necessarily translate to revenue right away, financials, but that's one thing how I define success. And then just general awareness across our targeted groups, I think is how yeah. And then the other one that's more, it depends on what social media channels are best, but also looking at the number of followers to see like, is it growing, right? So we just started early, with the Real Feel, um, we just have over 100 followers. But if you see it going up, I'm like, okay, that's a testament that awareness is going up. Now with Rue, I remember when we were in our first few hundreds, we're at 25,000 followers now on LinkedIn. So I think that's also a little barometer I use to see if it's a success beyond financials.
This is amazing. I agree. Great. Um, we talked about this, but what's the next innovative idea for your company? What's the next innovation that you have? You and I talked about doing a panel, the same people asking multiple times a year so you can see how they develop. But what could be the next innovative idea for your company?
For this particular one, I
Yeah,
think
or the
it's
other one, that's fine with me. How do you see innovation for company?
um well with the real feel, like I think it's important to still stay focused on what we're doing and amplify it. So I do see a lot of founders, what they try to do is they'll go after different next big things and then they kind of lose sight of their original product and spend lots of money and then you're like, oh gosh, what's the focus? But as far as like sticking to what I'm trying to do and seeing the bigger vision, it's like ultimately we want to be the world's first consumer mood index. Um, and like literally be that go-to source for anyone to whether you're a marketer, financial person, or a news outlet, and just like be that source of, okay, tell me about which I select this group, what's their current mood, how, why, and then what are the implications, right? Um, so that's this bigger vision I have with the real feel, and I think it's pretty important. For Rue, it's a B2B marketplace. So the audience has been the vets and the animal hospitals, right? I think the bigger vision, just my opinion, is more like if we get all of the hospitals and the vets on our platform, we could totally extend that marketplace to be B2C, as in let's help connect pet parents and their pets to the best vet that's available in their region. Because there's nothing out there like that. But the thing is, we have all the back end data on the scheduling, the skills. So if it's like literally like someone who's like feeling you go to the Roo site and it's like, oh, I have a golden retriever, the drop down menu ate something weird, right? It needs emergency. Um, and I'm in this zip code. Find me the best vet right away. Today, it's through word of mouth, or they're going on Yelp or whatever, or Google Maps. But like ours can be more powerful to really pinpoint, okay, here's available vet right now that can help with surgery and blah blah blah. So I think that's kind of more like that would be pretty groundbreaking in the vet world for Rue. But yeah, those are some ideas for both companies.
Amazing. So we're done with all the questions, unless you want to have add something to our students. Do you recommend something, suggestion, advice to our students? See you, Denver,
No, I'm
Colorado.
just jealous that they're student, young, and with lots of energy. And I just want to say, enjoy it now while you can. And yeah, there's gonna be like roadblocks, but it's just, just get through it each day. But I love talking to folks who are the future. Hopefully what I've said it has been, somewhat helpful. But yeah, I, um, you know, thanks for the opportunity. And if they have certain particular questions, happy to answer. And I encourage them to visit the Real Feel and check it out. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I will make sure to share the link. And do you mind if I share your email in Canvas?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate your time, and we met multiple times in the past month. So it's great. I'm
Thank
so happy
you.
about your work.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good
Take care. Yeah.